Welcome to the sojourn of life through molecular biology. Now, before we really enter into molecular biology, we must know what is nucleotide chemistry. So, at the end of this class, we learn about why nucleotides in medicine. I had given you an overview in my first class. Then we'll come to know about nitrogenous base, nucleosides, nucleotides, and nucleic acids. The structure of nucleotides, nucleoside and nucleotide analogues that are used in medicine, some biological important nucleotides and their biomedical application. So, before we actually begin with the topic, we must not forget the discoverers, because of whom we easily talk so much about this DNA, RNA, and whatnot. And based on that, we are diagnosing diseases, treating diseases, and lot more things we are doing now. So, it's an ode to the discoverers. From pus cells, Friedrich Mischer in 1868 discovered nucleic acids. Initially, he didn't know about it. Just imagine, where are we today and where was he? And he termed it as nuclein. Then, between 1890 to 1950, RNA was found and known to be distinct from DNA. So, little more development on the front. Around 1939, role of RNA in protein synthesis was known. Then between 1951 to 1965, role of different RNAs were found in protein synthesis. So just think about it. It took almost 100 years to know that something like DNA or RNAs exist. But after that, the progress was much faster. Gradually, Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine became synonymous to Nobel Prize in Biochemistry, because most of the biochemists were working upon this and they were receiving Nobel Prize year after another. So Severo Ochoa got Nobel Prize for transcription in 1959, and gradually Robert Hawley in 1968 could find all the 77 nucleotides of yeast tRNA. Then gradually discovery of genetic code was also there, and between this second half of 20th century, RNA was deeply studied and its function was known, and there was advancement in the field of X-ray crystallography, which helped people to know about its structure. Then came reverse transcriptase. Actually, there was a problem because RNA isolation is not that easy. Why? Because it is lysed by RNase enzyme, and these RNAs are present everywhere in saliva, tear, any kind of body fluid they are present. So it is very difficult to isolate RNA, and it requires immense skill and precautions. So when reverse transcriptase was found, it converted RNA into DNA, and this also showed that central dogma is not the ultimate. Now, what is central dogma? We all know from DNA RNA is formed, and from RNA protein is formed. So DNA to RNA we know as transcription, and from RNA to protein we call it as translation. Now, no one knew that RNA also can give rise to DNA. With the discovery of reverse transcriptase, the theory of central dogma was opposed, and it also unfurled a newer world of diagnostics. So gradually we will be taking up. Now coming to the nucleic acid or the nucleotide chemistry, what are they? They are the building blocks of nucleic acids like DNA and RNA. You have read about proteins, you have read about lipids, you have read about carbohydrates. So, the final products, the complex products, are built by some primary products. Likewise, these nucleic acids, deoxyribonucleic acid or ribonucleic acids, they are also formed by basic units of nucleotides. So, is that all? Is it so hyped for only this function? Definitely not. What are other functions? Next comes to our mind is ATP. Yes, the energy currency of our body. After that, what? So many other functions are also seen in case of nucleotides. Now, look at the physiological mediators like adenosine. Now, this adenosine can regulate myocardial as well as circulatory functions, and it not only dilates coronary vessels but attenuates beta adrenergic receptor mediated increases in myocardial contractility. So, this all helps in maintaining the regular flow to the heart. So, that way adenosine is a physiological mediator or regulator. Then ADP, adenosine diphosphate, can act as a platelet aggregator. Then cyclic AMP and cyclic GMP. When we go to mechanism of hormone action and the basic molecular level receptors, so there you will come across the second messengers. So cyclic AMP and cyclic GMP are those. Then there are certain precursor functions like GTP. You have read about the structure of mRNA. So there is a cap and a tail. The cap is made up of 7' GTP. So tetrahydrobiopterin is another product that helps in the hydroxylation of aromatic amino acid. So these are other functions of nucleotides. Likewise, the coenzymes, the derivatives of B complex vitamins like NAD, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, and FAD, the flavin adenine dinucleotide or mononucleotide, coenzyme A, all these also are nucleotides. They also act as activated intermediates. Now, these activated intermediates like UDP glucose that is required for glycogen synthesis, then CDP choline in phospholipid metabolism will come across, then SAM, S-adenosyl methionine, PAPS sulfation. So when we go to xenobiotics metabolism, you will come across all this. So these are the activated intermediates where also we come across nucleotides. They can also act as allosteric effectors, like for ATP synthesis GTP or for GTP synthesis ATP, they can act as allosteric effectors. So now we know that there are lot many functions of nucleotides apart from this monomeric units of DNA, RNA or ATP. In medicine, why we must know in detail about nucleotides? Because we use certain nucleotide analogues. Either we use them for cancer treatment or in antiviral treatment or in some other diseases also, and like certain anti-cancer agents I have mentioned here, azathioprine, cytarabine, then anti-tubercular drugs 2-FDC, that is rifampicin and INH combination. These are all nucleotide analogues, means having similar structure to nucleotides. Then there are certain diseases associated to nucleotide metabolism that is also of concern to us, the medicine practitioners. Gout, a very common disorder in our setup. Less Nyhan syndrome, though rare, but we may come across. Then ADA deficiency, orotic aciduria, these are all rare, but we can come across certain diseases that are related to nucleotide metabolism. So, the better we understand the metabolism part or the process that is occurring at the molecular level, we can treat the disease and also we can diagnose the disease better manner. Then also it is involved in pathogenesis of cholera, having altered G protein activity. So, in subsequent classes we will be discussing more about it. Now, let us come to nucleotide structure. So, what is a nucleotide? It has basically three characteristic components: a pentose sugar, it can be ribose or deoxyribose, a phosphate group, and then a nitrogenous base. Now, this nitrogenous base can be either a purine or a pyrimidine. These are nothing new for you, you have read it many times in your plus 2 science and quite clear about it. This is just a brush up class. Now, this nucleotide, nitrogenous base. We begin with nitrogenous base, purine or pyrimidine. When we attach a ribose sugar, it becomes nucleoside. If another phosphoryl residue is added to the nucleoside, then it becomes nucleotide. So, finally, what it becomes? Nucleotide is a pentose sugar, a phosphoryl residue and a nitrogenous base. The purines, as we know, they are adenine and guanine. Pyrimidine are thiamine, cytosine, uracil. Now, do not confuse with thiamine, that is B1, B complex vitamin. Nucleoside are usually N glycosides and they are bound to the sugar by a beta N glycosidic bond. In RNA we have ribose sugar, and in deoxyribonucleotide we have a deoxyribose sugar. That's why the names like ribonucleic acid and deoxyribonucleic acid. So, the basic difference between the ribose and deoxyribose sugar is the lack of a oxygen. Okay. Now, this ribose or beta D furanose is a pentose sugar, a 5-membered ring structure, and it is usually annotated with a prime because we also have our nitrogenous base, they also require numbering. So, when we number the sugar, we number it with a prime. So, remember this. So, as I told you, an important derivative of ribose is 2-deoxyribose sugar or just deoxyribose. So, in the place of 2-OH, it is replaced by an H. So, here I have shown the ribose sugar, and this has been when replaced with simply H, it becomes a deoxyribonucleotide. Now, coming to pyrimidine and purine nucleus. Longer the name, shorter is the cycle. So, pyrimidine is the shorter cycle or the smaller cycle, and purine, it's also a heterocycle with nitrogen atoms. It has 2 rings together. Just mark the numbering in each So it is clockwise, starts from below, and 1 2 3 4 5 6, and the numbering in purine is anticlockwise in the first ring, and then 7 8 9. This is for purine ring. Adenine and guanine, the purines, their chemical name is 6-aminopurine. On the 6th carbon atom, there is a amino group. That's why it is 6-aminopurine. Similarly, you can observe the other nitrogenous bases, like guanine is 2-amino 6-oxypurine. Okay, so usually the structures of these biomolecules, they are a very good questions for quizzes. So if you are going for quiz, never miss these things. The pyrimidines likewise. Cytosine is otherwise known as 4-amino 1H pyrimidine 2-one. Thymine is 5-methyl uracil, and uracil is 2,4-dihydroxypyrimidine. So we all know that thymine is only seen in DNA, uracil in place of thymine in case of RNA. Apart from this regular purine and pyrimidine, the prime ones, we have some minor purine bases like hypoxanthine, xanthine and uric acid. The top three, they are all derivatives in the catabolism of purines, yet they can also stay free in the circulation, and they have their own characteristic properties as well as some functions, and if their level in the blood increases or decreases, that manifests as certain diseases. So particularly uric acid, you must know about it. It is about gout, so that will take up in the subsequent classes. Likewise, some methylated purine bases like N-methyl adenine, N6 dimethyl adenine, 7-methyl guanine, these are all minor purine bases. Now they have some practical implications, and like N6 dimethyl adenine can be used to artificially lengthen the prematuration period of oocyte growth in vitro. So in IVF it is required. So certain functions are there that will be taken little later on in subsequent classes. Then also apart from this, certain plant derivatives like caffeine, theophylline of tea, caffeine you know in coffee, theophylline of tea and theobromine of cocoa, they all are minor purine bases. So if there are minor purine bases, obviously some minor pyrimidine bases must be there. So this is a structure of uric acid. As you can see, it is 2,6,8 trioxopurine. Fine. So there are certain modified purine bases, and this like dihydrouracil. It is also an intermediate breakdown product of uracil. Then 5-methyl cytosine, that is methylated form of the DNA base cytosine that regulates gene transcription and takes several other biological roles. So these are basically for the PG entrance preparing students or PG students of MD students of biochemistry. They must be able to tell about this. Now these nitrogenous bases, they can take different forms. So particularly adenine and cytosine, which are cyclic amidins, they can exist in either amino or imino form. And guanine, thymine and uracil, which are cyclic amides, can exist in either lactam or keto or lactim or enol forms. Now, in physiological conditions, for the adenine and cytosine, the amino form that is the amine form, and keto form or lactam form for the guanine, thymine and uracil, they are prevalent. So, though both the forms are existent, these are the preferable forms for the molecules. So, in nature we have a common rule for everything, that is, if a molecule is taking certain shape in physiological condition, definitely it is to achieve two functions. One, to occupy minimum space, and second thing is to require minimal energy to stay in that form. So, for that reason we see many forms, but one form will be predominant. So, like I explained in the previous slide, the amino form and keto form are mostly prevalent. Now, across the beta and glycosidic bonds, that is between the sugar and the ribose sugar and the nitrogenous base, there is very less freedom of rotation, but they can both exist in syn and anti-conformation, but anti-conformation predominates in the nature. Now, as we have already discussed, nucleoside is a sugar plus base. So, when the phosphoryl group is not there, the H molecule will be there, and nucleotide structure is when the phosphate group is added. So, it is usually in the form of a triphosphate. So, when one after another phosphate group is removed, then finally it is NMP, N for any nucleotide, any nitrogenous base. So, NMP is monophosphate, NDP is diphosphate, and NTP is triphosphate. So, here I have shown the structure of ATP having the ribose sugar, then the nitrogenous base adenine and triphosphate. Okay. Now, this nitrogenous base that attaches to the C1 prime, that is first carbon atom of ribose or deoxyribose. The pyrimidines attach to the pentose via the N1 position of the pyrimidine ring, whereas the purines attach through N9 position, and some minor bases may have different attachments. So, they attach little differently. So, when we come to DNA, the deoxyribonucleotides, so this is how they are mentioned. The nomenclature is deoxyadenosine. One phosphate group is added, so it is DAMP. Simply we can also mention as D capital A. Okay. Likewise DGMP, and or it is D capital G or simply G. So, this is for the deoxyribonucleotides. The major deoxyribonucleotides, as I told you, there might be some minor deoxyribonucleotides. Then the ribonucleotides, uridylate, that is UMP, uracil is found only in RNAs. Then cytidylate, cytidine. The major ribonucleotides, AMP, GMP, UMP, CMP. So, no small d here, simply AMP, GMP, UMP and CMP, right? So we are conversant with this type of nomenclature. So again, if we summarize and see, the purine adenine, base is adenine, nucleoside form is adenosine or deoxyadenosine. Nucleotide, when it becomes a nucleotide with a phosphate group, it becomes adenylate or deoxyadenylate. I hope now there is no confusion. Nitrogenous base is the purine or pyrimidine, that is ATGC and U, and nucleoside is when a sugar group is added, so S for sugar, S for nucleoside. The nucleotide is when the phosphate group is added. Okay. So this esterification of further phosphate groups will release the nucleoside triphosphates like ATP, adenosine triphosphate. These nucleotides are polyfunctional acid. That means the primary and secondary phosphoryl groups of nucleosides have pKa values of about 1 and 6.2 respectively. That is, for primary it is 1, for secondary phosphoryl group it is 6.2. So they can serve as both proton donors and acceptors. That is why they are known as polyfunctional acids. But at physiological pH they bear a negative charge. Now these nucleotides, they absorb UV rays. At physiological pH, that is 7, all common nucleotides absorb light at 260 nanometer. Now we know that the visible range is from 300 to 700 nanometer. 260 nanometer means it is in the UV range, ultraviolet range, and they absorb light at 260 nanometer. That's why if there is exposure to UV rays constantly, then there is damage to our DNA or the nucleotides. Fine. So that leads to some mutations, and in the long run there is mutagenic effect due to chemical modification of nucleotides that leads to cancer. So when we take up DNA repair and DNA damage, so that time we will again discuss about all this. We use this purine, pyrimidine or nucleotide analogues differently in different diseases in medical science, like allopurinol. So it's a purine analog and used as a drug of choice for the treatment of gout. Then 5-fluorouracil as anti-cancer drug, azathioprine, arabinosyl adenine, arabinosyl cytosine, azidothiamidine, either they are anti-cancerous or antiviral agents. Apart from that, as I had already mentioned in the initial slides, they also work as high energy source components like ATP or GTP. As methyl donor, the S-adenosyl methionine SAM, it donates a methyl group wherever required. Then component of coenzymes FAD, NAD, that we had also discussed. Now these non-hydrolyzable NTP analogues are also used as research tools. Now how it is used as a research tool? We all know that ATP is a central molecule if we consider the energetics, because it is the energy currency, right? So wherever ATP is utilized, if we can put a non-hydrolyzable ATP, then what will happen? That step will be disrupted and it can be studied what is really happening in the system. Or else we can attach a nuclear probe to ATP without altering much of its properties and allow it to enter into a metabolic pathway, and we can see the different processes. Okay, fine. So that is how we can use this NTP analogues as research tools as well. So as usual, I keep on giving one quote. It always seems impossible until it is done. With all my best wishes, stay tuned to my YouTube channel for next PowerPoint. You can also find my PowerPoints on my website www.vpacharya.com. So thank you all. Till the next class. Bye bye.